Dear students, we will proceed with the next topic in software engineering, that is unified process. So what is this unified process? The name itself suggests that in this process the various characteristics and features of all the models that were studied earlier are integrated, okay, and the best is taken. So the unified process is an attempt to draw the best features and characteristics of conventional software process model. So the best characteristics and features are integrated in this concept. The unified process recognizes the importance of customer communication and streamlined methods for describing customer's view of the system. You know, the first phase of software development activity is communication. This phase has got a lot of importance. Rather, the communication phase forms the basis for software development. In this communication phase, we interact with the customer, try and understand what are the requirements, okay, how the system is going to function and all this. So once we gather all the information regarding the basic requirement, various system characteristics, then this lays the foundation for future activities. How the user is going to interact with the system, okay, how he feels about the system, the user's view about the system is use case, okay. So this concept of use case is of a lot of importance. The unified process is a framework for object-oriented software engineering using UML. So unified process forms the basis for object-oriented software engineering using unified modeling language. Okay, this unified modeling language has got a lot of importance in object-oriented system development. The various notations used by this UML are very close to the user and to the developer. So the unified process and UML are widely used on object-oriented projects of all kinds because they give clear understanding about the interaction between the system and the user. Unified modeling language contains robust notation for modeling and development of object-oriented system. So this UML has got certain notations which brings the clarity between the developer and the user. The user is a customer. So next we will study what are the phases in unified process. For this we must understand what are the phases in general process model. So we have studied the framework activities in the process model. What are the 5 generic framework activities? Okay, one is communication, next planning, next is modeling, next is construction, and next is deployment. So these 5 generic framework activities play a very important role. In the communication phase, we try and understand what are the requirements of the user. So there is one-to-one dialogue between the customer and the developer. Okay. Planning phase is the next phase. Once we have got information and basic requirements, okay, as in the communication phase, then we have to plan for software development. Here we have to identify various resources required, what are the tasks, how they have to be scheduled, okay, what is the time frame, what is the economic, okay, aspect, all this has to be planned. Okay. The next, modeling. In the modeling phase, okay, we have to develop a model which gives more clarity or which is a proof or which works as a common base between the user and the developer. So using a model, developer can easily communicate with the customer. So this has got analysis phase. Modeling has got analysis and design. Next is construction. In the construction phase, as we very well know, we write the program code. Okay, the program codes are written for various modules. The code is tested, and once it is error free, then the system is integrated. What is this deployment? We know in the deployment phase, the system is made operational at customer side, and then once the customer runs this system, then it is evaluated, and whatever are the drawbacks, those are overcome. So the on-site deployment is the last phase in a software development activity. So the phases in unified process are: one is inception, next is elaboration, next is construction, next transition, and lastly is production. So these 5 phases of unified process has got some relevance with the 5 framework activities of the generic process model. The diagram that we will see in the next slide will reveal us the relation between the 5 phases of unified process and the 5 generic activities of general process model. Now you find this diagram. In the inner circle you have got here the 5 generic framework activities. First is communication, followed by planning. Next is modeling. Next is construction. Next is deployment. So communication, planning, modeling, construction and deployment are 5 generic framework activities. How about the phases in unified process? How are they related with these 5 framework activities? You can know from this diagram. The first phase, that is inception. So inception correlates the communication phase and planning. So once the communication is over, the inception phase consists of communication and planning framework activities. So the tasks done in communication and planning activities are carried out in the inception phase. Next is the elaboration phase. In the elaboration phase, what happens? It is correlation between the planning and the modeling. All the further activities in the planning and the initial activities in the modeling are carried out in the elaboration phase. Next is construction. So construction is same as that of the construction framework activity in general process model. Next is the transition. Transition takes the latter part of the construction and the initial part of the deployment. And lastly is the production. In this production, we pass on the model or the software system to the user, customer. So the phases, that is the inception phase of unified process, encompasses the customer communication and planning activity. As you have seen in the diagram, inception phase contains both planning activity as well as customer communication activity. Next, elaboration phase encompasses planning and modeling. That is what we have seen in the diagram as well. Construction activity phase is identical to the construction generic framework activity that we have studied in general process model. The transition phase, it constitutes a later stage of generic construction activity and the first part of the generic deployment activity. That is the testing phase and the operational phase are integrated here. In the production phase of unified process coincides with the deployment activity in the generic process model. That is where we pass on the software to the customer and run it at his site. Now, we have studied these 5 phases in unified process, and we feel that after the first phase is over, the next phase begins. That is but that is not true. That is, there is no sequence that if one activity is over, the next activity would start. But these 5 phases are staggered together. What happens is that the 5 unified process phases do not occur in sequence, but that is staggered in concurrential fashion. It is likely that at the same time construction, transition and production are going on simultaneously conducted, and also the work may have begun on the next increment of the software. So these activities are staggered. So this unified process, as you very well know, takes the best feature of the various general process models that we have studied. More regarding this we will study in the next class. I hope once you read the notes, you will understand it better. Thank you.